Very quiet vibes today. Today's message is specific to a person who might find themselves leaning towards more solitude or seclusion lately. This could be recently more than usual, or this could be a pattern of continuous solitude, isolation, stillness, quiet, very quiet. There's also a little softness in the quietness. The stillness feels quiet, calm. There is some peace here for the most part. There's a message here to either pay attention to physical currency you encounter, or you might already be doing this in some important way. This could be like coin fascination, like you're coin collecting, rare coins, or currency, bills, something physical, tangible, but it's unique and valuable in some critical sense, and you're either aware of that or you are going to be aware of that. I do see there's like a distinct possibility of rare coins circulating in your space. So I know that's very specific, but just if this doesn't pertain to what you're doing right now, because I know that's super specific, just pay attention to the currency you're circulating at this time that are going through your hands in a physical sense. There's something about this to pay attention to and notice the details of. I know that we usually take money and spend it, and we quickly move through it without paying any attention to the uniqueness, the years, the dates, the specialness of those bills or coins. But this is a note to kind of slow down and look more in depth in some way that you don't normally do. Or it's a note to confirm that you're already doing this for some reason and you're aware that you're doing this and you don't really know why. A side note from this odd coin message or this odd currency message is stuff like that will always be written out in the description for you. Sometimes I don't fully expand on what I draw or the things that come up in my particular channeling methods. I do this to keep the messages succinct, at least a little bit, or to simplify them. But if you're interested in the nuances, the details, the complexities, they will always be there for you in the description. It's kind of like my gift to fellow complexity or detail lovers. So always check that out, especially if you're curious about how I got to where I got, because I know my style is not common among other readers. So the energy today seems to be for those who might be entrepreneurial. They are those rare spirits who walk unpaved paths in some way. It doesn't have to be necessarily means of making money, but I get the sense that the crowd today is more comfortable in isolation, whether that be recent development or has always been the case, which kind of correlates to that lonely entrepreneurial spirit. This is connected to a future you hold with self-employment, I see, or creation apart from the conventional way that we are taught to make money or build something. You won't just necessarily follow the herd in some way. You're kind of diverting. I definitely see that here. There's also an interesting tie here between love themes that are present in this. So it's highly connected to the application of your independent wealth and how you will build that either in the future or upcoming. I see there might be like a connection here where love threads or connections that are emotional kind of hinder wealth and growth in some way, and vice versa. So you may have noticed patterns in the past where love connections or any emotional connections somehow indirectly affects your ability to earn money in some way, or the opposite is true. When you're very focused on money, love connections or any sort of emotional connections kind of fall through the cracks at those times. This could show up as just not being able to focus on both at one time, or it could show up as in the absence of connection, being able to ease the path of financial stability in some way. They are definitely tied here. It's kind of an either or situation or a balancing act. Like you figure things out with clarity after connections end, or the connection itself creates confusion around making money in some way, and vice versa. That's a very specific pattern. So if you've noticed that in some way be true to you, this message might be for you. Okay, so the first part of this message seems to revolve around your perspective in a connection, like a POV of some sort. I'm feeling what it feels like for you when you have the urgency to reach out to someone, and when it presents itself, what it's specifically pointing at for you. This feels like a "this is what to do" type of message. So very much instructional, informative of when you're in that position of feeling that urgency, this is how to really settle that feeling. And I feel this information isn't really readily available to anyone. So that's why it's important to get this message to you specifically. I think the way that it's being presented to me is it will start with your perspective. It will move to whoever is on the opposite end of this connection and their perspective. And then I sense like a tool from spirit, a specific application tool to give to you at the end. I don't see this being the type of thing that is common for you. Like, I don't see you feeling this urgency all the time. This isn't something that keeps popping up, but I do see when it comes out of nowhere and it comes hard. So first, let's talk about the desire, this feeling of urgency that comes over you to reach out to this person in the connection, whoever it may be. When it does come, it's usually out of nowhere. It hits fast and hard, like you're planning a message or you're going over the physical urge in some way. Perhaps sometimes it leads to actually doing something, and perhaps sometimes it's just an ongoing battle with yourself. This connection, however it shows up for you, whether it's a deep connection or it's love, is definitely a karmic thread. There's soul level threads here that are entangled with you. The connection has followed you through many lifetimes, so it doesn't really matter the duration of this connection. It could be a couple of days, it could be weeks, it could be many, many years, but it's really timeless on a metaphysical level. It doesn't really matter the time because it rests heavier on your spiritual threads, and you will feel this because it doesn't really make sense why it's so powerful to you. It's very much present outside of the physical. So let's talk about the feeling itself and why it's so powerful to you, why this urge takes you over in some way. It doesn't have anything to do with deep feelings towards a person. That metaphysical entanglement is what we're really focused on here. There's a deep spiritual interconnection here with different parts of your being. So when those parts feel activated in some way, whether from life, spiritual energetic pangs, from people, circumstances, or even just really timeline crossings like energetic weather or astrological influences that are out of your control, what happens is you get activated in some way, these cords, these connections, and they are intertwined with those active threads from that person because you've been entangled with them so many lifetimes. So it's almost like these cords don't ever really dissipate. They're able to be activated for a very long time after the connection. So in other words, things outside of your control or inside of your control will happen, and then these threads light up. And once they are activated from whatever the occurrence was, old impulses that you learned in the past to soothe these activations will feel urgent to you. So this is why out of nowhere, you'll feel a desire to just call, text, look them up. There's a lot of urgency with that. These threads take control in a way and instinctively go to the last place it knows how to soothe those cords. So your body just wants to regulate. I've talked about this in a couple of videos, but it's looking at them because it's the only thing it knows to do to soothe that activation. And sometimes it runs on instincts at that point. It's very much instinctual. Instinctual soothing takes over. Now, the way to soothe these cords without instincts is more than just sitting in that triggered state. You don't have to just white knuckle it through necessarily. And I think there's some sort of tangible tool here that I'll get to at the end. But really, this is just about understanding the activation as a whole. When you do feel these light up moments, it's asking for you specifically to be witnessed. That's the part of your psyche that's lighting up in some way. But the only historical evidence it's had of being witnessed is through this person, through this connection, through this entanglement. So you're still in a stage, it seems like, where you're learning that skill yourself, because witnessing is very complex. Witnessing yourself is the key to stopping urgency and calming down the activation threads that are lighting up. outside of your control. So it's not so much about preemptively stopping the threads from lighting up because it's inevitable. This person or connection witnessed you in some sort of critical way. Now their witnessing of you is kind of like a band-aid relief system for you for what you really need, because to stabilize these threads that are activated, it's really a long-term need for witnessing, which I'll get to later. But you've been able to somehow regulate that through this person historically. So it's caused some sort of dependency cycle from an instinct level in some way. They feel needed and you feel you need them through the spiritual cord. This is the part where I explain the person on the other side of your connection and their perspective. What I'm feeling is when they get activated and why they get activated. This person on the opposite end also struggles with this, let's call it activation, because I really can't think of a better word, but this urgency to reach out to you. So you're not alone with the type of feeling, but the activation is much different in this thread than yours, as you require witnessing and they require something much different. So the reasoning behind it is different. This person seems to have built an identity in the cycle of witnessing you in some way. This is through many lifetimes this identity is formed, and it's not just ego-based like we may assume. There's something much deeper here. In the ego surface, they have an identity tied to being a calming force or a security cycle for you in some critical way, especially if you continue to be unaware of your need for witnessing and that you're going to this person for witnessing. Their identity is tied to being that stabilizing force for you, whether the two parties are conscious or not. This could be you go to them for security in some way, and you may not recognize that it feeds their identity because this person could be really unstable in the physical or material world. So on an emotional level, by presenting stability to you in this way, they are able to build their ego. So on a deeper non-ego level, there is a power imbalance and a dynamic here at play where this person's core need is to control you in some way. They don't do it maliciously or intentionally. I don't see this person having any malice or bad intentions, and that's why I feel it's not an ego in the sense that we maybe think about it. But there's something deeper here that is played out through lifetimes through this control. Where they feel out of control in their life or somehow lesser, they find being an emotional presence for you as a reflection of worthiness in some way. The fact that you may sometimes need them to witness you, it is very empowering to them. It is because they recognize your power on a subconscious level and how it far exceeds others. There's some sort of recognition here of how powerful you are. So to be needed even in a small way by you allows them to feel powerful, at least a little. Think of it like this. Think of it like a really powerful king and a peasant in a societal social class structure. Now imagine the peasant has skills that no one else could solve for the king. And so the king keeps going back to that peasant for that skill. The peasant by default now looks at themselves as not a peasant. They now believe, I have something that no one else can give this very powerful person, so I must be powerful. I'm not saying that this person is a peasant. I'm saying the choices they make energetically are far below your energetic class in some way. However, they can feel the power through being relied on by you. And it's more than ego in that way. This is energetical inertia, because this is why you've healed them in some critical way, is you've changed their perspective on how they value themselves by needing them in this way. So it's more than just a simple, okay, you feed my ego. It's changed their perspective of what they have to offer as a person. The main message here from Spirit is how to witness yourself, what witnessing really means in those moments of inevitable urgency or activation that will come to you through the healing cycle that is very natural and normal and unavoidable in a sense. Here's what you need to do to witness yourself. It doesn't mean to tell yourself you're fine. That's not witnessing yourself. It means to almost replicate the energy of the person you're going to within yourself. And I'll explain what that means. You're seeking validation and your experience is real in some way when you are asking to be witnessed by this connection. And the reason it gets activated is your inner self isn't getting validated in some way over time. So think of this as like a very simple system. As a kid, we're taught that we need to show tangible proof in order to be witnessed. So things get a little convoluted based on structures we're presented as kids. Things like grading, chores, tangible proofs of worthiness. This is our validation system, right? And so the problem with that is it kind of teaches us to rely on an external source. So you're conditioned to seek witnessing through those external means. And that's why it's very easy for people to get entangled in connections like this that have these karmic lessons, because we aren't taught to witness ourselves and give that validation internally. We don't really even know what that means. All we know how to do is provide structure. Here is this grade. Here is this chore. See me. And internally, our system gets out of whack because of that. When you're feeling activated in some way, trying to deactivate and move on from the feeling will only exacerbate the emotion of needing to be witnessed. By telling yourself you're fine and to stop and to just get over it, it will create a larger urge to reconnect with this person as a result. Think of this as like compounding over time. The more you brush away witnessing yourself, the more it builds to the point of bubbling over. So the worst thing you could do is at that urgent place is to dismiss it, because it will always bubble up without reaction to it. You will almost inevitably reach out to that person if you keep dismissing at that point, at that critical peak point. The best way to witness yourself, and what Spirit is directly giving me as a tool to explain this to you, is to stop everything, to immediately put down every little thing that you're distracting with. I mean that as like, think about it in going to that person. The most validating thing that that person could do to you is to stop everything around them and reconnect with you, right? Like in a perfect ideal world, you call them, you text them, and they drop everything and they're asking about you. They're giving you undivided attention, right? It's not even the words itself that are shared. It's that action of undeniable presence that they would give you, and that would completely validate you, right? The reason that it's true is because on the opposite end of that, the worst feeling that you could encounter by reaching out to that person is them saying, I'm busy right now, I'm doing something, or ignoring the need to connect in some way. That wouldn't feel gratifying in that moment. That wouldn't feel like what you need. And why is that? It's because witnessing in its truest form is dropping absolutely everything and being 100% attentive to ourselves. So the message is very clear. It's a full stop. It's dropping everything for yourself. It's not dismissing. It's not trying to avoid the feeling. It's not distracting the feeling, going to something else to remove attention, because you're compounding, you're building it over time to explode at that point. So witnessing yourself looks like full attention. It looks like a full stop. It looks like the opposite of what got you to the urgency in the first place. And the reason we get to those activated places is because of micro dismissals of ourselves over time. We distract, we work, we do obligation, whatever it is that builds and builds and builds until the body says, no more, I need your full attention. And if you don't give it to me, I will find the source that's given it to me in the past through instinct. So the reason you get to that primal instinctual place is because of micro dismissals of witnessing. And to witness yourself means fully dropping everything, sitting with yourself and hearing yourself. However that looks for you, it doesn't matter. It's the action of providing the full undivided attention that really matters to the part of you that needs to be witnessed.